Nintendo Switch 2 has been awesome so far overall when it comes to the backwards compatibility. The games are starting to ramp up a little bit. We're getting some new releases, and overall, people are just having a blast with the system. But one of the things that people really wanted to see, especially with the Nintendo Switch 1 that we never got, was themes. Now, I did cover a rumor not too long ago that Nintendo will be doing themes, but it won't be ready at launch or anytime soon. And now we have another bit of information here from another leaker that states that yes, themes are coming. They are confirmed, at least in his eyes, and it's going to be just a little bit of time before we get those. So we're going to jump into that and some other big information that kind of goes with what exactly I've been saying when it comes to some of the third-party games and sales overall in the system, but a big update there. We also got some rumor stuff with Final Fantasy IX, so it's going to be a good one. Let's go ahead and get into this first topic here, though, because this is important for many people out there. Themes. What is going on there? So Nash Riedel, he's been known as a leaker slash insider, whatever you want to say, for a bit of time. He's gotten some things right, some things wrong. But overall, once again, people do listen to what he has to say. And he stated this originally on Twitter. I had to use a translate, so it might not be 100%, but essentially, this is a pretty accurate translation of what he's trying to say. So it says, it had been rumored, but I didn't mention it until now that I can put a check mark on it. Nintendo Switch 2 will have new themes for the menu, but it seems they won't arrive this year. So it looks like maybe a next year thing. We're finally going to get some themes on the system. And for me, I'm not big on themes, but it's not just about myself. There's other people who play the system and would like themes. Nintendo's done themes before. They did themes on the Nintendo 3DS, for example. There was a bunch of different type of themes you can get. I bought one theme, or I got one theme, the Super Smash Brothers for a 3DS theme. And that was pretty cool. You had like the music and all that type of stuff, little sound effects that went with it. And that's all I used. I didn't really use any other theme but the Super Smash Bros. For 3DS theme. But it would be nice if Nintendo did have some things to kind of switch it up. I do think that with the Nintendo Switch 2, they still only have just like the black and the white theme, or the dark theme and the light theme overall. But the dark theme for the Nintendo Switch 2 is much better than the dark theme for the Nintendo Switch 1. So at least we got that for right now, at least, just because I like the way that the tone is and just the way that it looks overall. But yeah, if they were able to actually do themes like Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, or like Mario Odyssey or other games, I think that'd be pretty cool. And it just adds a little bit of customization, personal touch to your system that definitely people like and some people would want to see on there. So with the Nintendo Switch 2, another thing to kind of add is that there is significantly more RAM when it comes to what the OS can use than what the Nintendo Switch 1 had. Switch 1 barely had any overall. So I think that this is probably more plausible than not, and I think it's something that Nintendo knows people have wanted for quite some time. We were guessing that maybe we'd get something on Switch 1, and it never actually happened, but I do think with the OS allocation information that's out there, with 3 gigabytes or so, I think that's plenty to kind of run a theme and also have all the other stuff that the OS needs overall to run fast and efficient. Because some of this stuff is fickle, man, when it comes down to a theme. Like anything can cause something to crash or do whatever. So I think that's part of the reason. But let's see what happens here, guys. It's not confirmed at this point. It is still just a rumor, but this is multiple times now. There's been other rumors on this, but it does seem like themes are happening with the Nintendo Switch 2, probably next year at some point. I'm guessing Nintendo would probably give us a Nintendo Today type of update saying, hey, look, themes are coming on this day. I think that would be a great announcement for the Nintendo Today app. So what do you guys think about themes? Let me know in the comment section. But before we get into the next topic, we are giving away 3 digital copies of Donkey Kong Bonanza on July 17th and having a big live stream. So make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want to enter in, and check out the link in the description below over to the community page. I have a post on a poll where you can vote and comment below. I will be picking the winners randomly from there. So check out the link in the description, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the next thing here, which once again, it kind of goes on this story that I've been working on for about a week or so, a couple weeks now at this point. When it comes to third-party games on the Nintendo Switch 2, there was that report from Christopher Dring over at the Game Business, and then people kind of took that and ran with it in super clickbait ways on how no third-party games are selling on the Nintendo Switch 2 and all of this type of stuff and this and that and whatever. It kind of spiraled when it comes down to it for the flavor of the clicks for that week. Kind of died down then at this point, but now we're starting to see that more and more third-party games are kind of coming out, or more and more games are kind of coming into the fold, and we're starting to get some information that kind of directly refutes that, because a 2-week audit on third-party sales for a brand new system is ridiculous. So Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, the sales have now topped 1.2 million, so shout outs to Level 5 on that one. But there is now an official confirmation that there will be a Switch 2 physical edition, and not a game key card, but an actual physical edition on a 64 gigabyte cartridge. You know, that game's nowhere near 64 gigabytes. On a 64 gig cartridge for the Switch 2. So this game is already on the Switch 2. You can get it when it comes to the Switch 1 version, and then you can buy the upgrade. You can simply just flat out buy the game on the Nintendo Switch 2 for about $63. Like, there's multiple ways to get it even without this physical. And they also talked about there's a photo mode and everything like that. But if you look at the sales numbers, or if you look at like more like the sales trends for this game, it's not like it's popping up and showing up on Steam bestsellers everywhere, or on PlayStation or Xbox or anything like that. Where this game, the bulk of this game, where we can see where it's selling, is the Nintendo Switch 1. We see that in the Famitsu sales. We also see that in the eShop sales. And then the Nintendo Switch 2. And we see that, once again, in the Nintendo Switch specific eShop charts, where it's number 2. It actually went up. It was number 3 behind Cyberpunk, and it's actually been going up to the point to where it's number 2. Now, that is above other Nintendo big first-party games. Mario Kart World, obviously, is going to be the top, because people redeeming the bundle on top of people just buying it because it's Mario Kart. Mario Kart always sells huge. But it's number 2 at this point. It's ahead Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, and also the upgrade packs that we know are doing really good. So these sales, when it comes to it selling 1 million, which we got just a few weeks ago, and then now at 1.2 million, that is a massive push from people that are actually purchasing the Nintendo Switch 2 version of the game. And I think that Level 5, obviously, I think they wanted to have a Switch 2 real physical version because they felt that it could do well there. But now we obviously have that confirmation that it's coming, and there's no way that they would do a physical edition on the Nintendo Switch 2 with that expensive 64 gigabyte cartridge if it wasn't selling well. So third-party games like this are doing well, and this is more proof that that's exactly what's happening based off the eShop charts, based off the fact that they actually want to have a real physical edition of the game. And not only is that 1 million units, which they just announced, they've added on another 200,000 units on top of that, spurred by the Nintendo Switch 2 version as well. Now, this Switch 2 edition of the game, it's going to be very similar to like Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma, which you can play the Switch 2 version of the game on the Switch 1 and the Switch 2. So it's a pretty cool cartridge. And the release date for this Nintendo Switch 2 edition of Fantasy Life I is going to be dropping on August 7th. Pre-orders are available at different retailers when it comes to Video Games Plus. So it's about $63, and I think some of them do have free shipping as well. So that's actually not too bad considering the type of content and the quality of Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time on the Nintendo Switch 2. They also recently announced that they're going to be updating the game even more on the system to kind of fix some blurry graphics here and there. So we already have a Switch 2 update that makes the game look better and run better on the Nintendo Switch 2, but now it's even going to get better when it comes down to it with that update. So definitely good to see when it comes to Fantasy Life, and I think that this is going to be a trend when it comes to certain games that are performing well. I think that we will see developers say, okay, we are going to have a Nintendo Switch 2 version, and as the, I would say, production process gets cheaper or better, or Nintendo figures out a few different things, there will be more developers that kind of come in and say, okay, we are doing a big physical version of the game as well. So this is definitely what you want to see. And I think that it wasn't necessarily a super big surprise because of how well Fantasy Life was doing, but it's just, once again, something that you want to see with games. The more options for consumers to be able to purchase their games and to have the game fully on the cartridge is definitely better out there for collectors. And of course, if you don't care, there's a digital version for you as well. And I'm looking forward to playing the game myself. I did just finish Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma. That game is fantastic. So I kind of want to take a little bit of a break before I get into something that's kind of like it in some ways. Donkey Kong Bonanza is coming out, but I will definitely get to Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, especially with this physical edition that has been announced. So what do you guys think overall about Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, topping 1.2 million in sales and the actual Switch 2 physical edition launching on August 7th in Japan, with of course you can import region free. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, I'm moving on to the next topic here, guys. Looks like we have a little bit of new information that's a rumor on Final Fantasy IX Remake and the development possibly being in trouble. So there's been a lot of rumors. There was the Nvidia leak when it comes to Final Fantasy IX, what is happening with this game, what's going on, and we've been hearing about it for years now. But it looks like just maybe there was some problems with the game, and we don't know the status right now at this point. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be canceled, doesn't mean that it's not happening, but right now there is just a little bit of information that there could have been some trouble on there. Now, in the On Reset era, Nate Drake, my man, Direct Feed Games, Nate Drake has talked about how last time he checked, there was some problems. So let's go ahead and get into what he had to say with the game. Quote, "As of the last check, it remains in development to my knowledge, but I need to do a fresh check and see what a more current status is, as I did hear a month or so ago that it was in trouble and possibly canceled. I only had one source on the cancellation possibility and need to verify the info further." So he's not going all in on saying that there was a lot of issues or problems. He only had one source, so it's not like he had a bunch of people telling him, oh my gosh, this is in big trouble, there's going to be problems with the game and all of that. Final Fantasy IX Remake, once again, has been rumored with the Nvidia leak for years now at this point. And if you go back to kind of just like Square Enix and what they had, the Final Fantasy Tactics, that was also on the same Nvidia leak, and then we recently got that announcement, and that's going to be coming out. So I do believe that Final Fantasy IX Remake is real, but I don't know the exact style that they're going with for this. Like, that's the thing that's up kind of like questionable. Obviously it's not going to be to the level of Final Fantasy VII Remake, they're not going to do that. But I don't think it's going to be like Final Fantasy VIII, that remaster. I think it's going to be somewhere in between that with this game. Final Fantasy IX is pretty much the pinnacle of Final Fantasy development on the PS1 in terms of when they were cranking out those games almost every year in the mid to late 90s. So I think that a lot of people really enjoy this game. This was a lot of people's first Final Fantasy overall, releasing back in 2000 or 99, 2000 when people were talking about this game, and then it eventually released. So I do think that it's a very important game that you have to get right. So I'm not sure if they did have trouble, hypothetically speaking, and all of that, like what was the hang up, what was the problems, what was going on with it, maybe the direction just wasn't there. Like, we just don't know at this point. But I do think that if they did eventually release Final Fantasy IX Remake and it's really good, I think it can sell really, really well. I mean, the original game sold over 8.9 million units across all platforms that it's on. Square Enix revealed that. So it's a big game and people are looking forward to it. So I'm hoping that we actually get something solid for Final Fantasy IX Remake. If they did announce this sometime soon, I'm guessing it could be announced at a Nintendo Direct. This would be a perfect reveal to be able to play on Nintendo Switch 1, Nintendo Switch 2, Xbox, PlayStation, all of that good stuff. But this would be a great announcement for Nintendo Direct type of thing. So we'll see what happens here. Nate isn't 100% sure. He hasn't got a fresh check yet, but I still think that this game is locked in, ready, loaded to go. But once again, we're going to have to wait and see for the final result because it's not a guarantee right now, considering how long it's been since this game's been rumored and Square Enix not really saying anything about it. They have all sorts of other Final Fantasy IX type of celebrations for the anniversary, but they haven't announced this yet. So we'll see what they have to say later down the line. So what do you guys think when it comes down to Final Fantasy IX Remake potentially being in trouble and what's going on with it? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here, guys. We're going to talk about what some analysts are saying about the Nintendo Switch 2 in Japan and how it seems like it will be difficult to purchase all the way up until spring 2026. So this is from the Japanese outlet Nikkei. They talked to some different analysts, and essentially the Switch 2 is so popular in Japan, it's blowing up in sales so much that they don't expect it to be readily available in all different stores and everything until spring 2026. So we are still quite some time away from that. Now, will that 100% happen at this point? No, not necessarily. We have to kind of wait and see what software Nintendo has and everything. But if you're going based off of trends and kind of what's happening with the system, based off of what I've seen, I would say that that prediction is probably going to be correct. You're seeing 100 and something thousand units every single week being sold with the Nintendo Switch 2. There's lotteries that are happening right now, and the software lineup for Nintendo Switch 2 is good for the rest of the year. Between Metroid Prime 4, you also have big games like Kirby Air Riders that's going to be coming out. In addition to Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, there's going to be Kirby Star-Crossed Worlds, that Nintendo Switch 2 edition of that game. Plus, there's probably going to be Splatoon Raiders as well, which is going to be huge in Japan as a spin-off type of title. So there's still a number of games coming out that's going to be big for the Japanese audience. Even Donkey Kong Bonanza bringing the DK franchise back to Japan with the development from the Super Mario Odyssey team. So expect that game to sell really well too. So with the big software that's kind of teaming up that we're seeing right now, and the amount of people that still haven't gotten the Nintendo Switch 2 in Japan that wanted one at launch with Mario Kart World, yeah, I can definitely see sellouts, and I can definitely see production being stressed in Japan probably for the end of the year at the bare minimum when it comes down to it. Overall, Nintendo not only has to supply 100,000 to 200,000 units in Japan almost every week to try to meet the demand overall. You want to have a lot of restocks. You don't want people to be able to go into the store, then there's not a Nintendo Switch 2 at all. So I'm hoping that they can kind of get better in some of the areas that are having low stock or that people can't find them overall in Europe in addition to the US. So definitely something that I think is going to happen. Japan has been crazy about the Nintendo Switch 2. I mean, I knew that this was going to happen considering the Nintendo Switch 1 still to this point outsells all the other systems in Japan overall. So I knew that the Nintendo Switch 2 was going to blow up when it comes to these sales, and that's exactly what's happening here. So what do you guys think about everything that we discussed here with the Nintendo Switch 2? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.